Hi there, it's Stephen Hughes, your hardship real estate pro. I have with me today a wonderful guest in the senior transition housing space. Her name is Katherine Ambrose. So, Katherine, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to do this with you. I am a producer and on-air talent for PBS television, first of all, PBS Kansas. My show runs through most of the state of Kansas, and it can be found on pbs.org. If you type in the name of the show, Empowering Seniors. And so I've been doing that since 2019. Our first season, it was a monthly program, and then they asked me to step it up for a weekly program. It airs every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night. And we do 22 episodes now per season. And we just completed season 3. It's already aired, and we are deep in production in season 4, which will start airing in January. That all came about in an unexpected way. I started doing seminars addressing the complex challenges of aging in my local community, which is Wichita, Kansas. And those seminars are called Empowered Senior. And now it's a nonprofit, it's empoweredsenior.org. And we do monthly seminars. And we've been doing that for 5 years. We're about ready to wrap our 5th year. And the TV show came directly out of that. And so it's really a great way for me to get a wonderful education interviewing experts from across the country and certainly experts in my own area on everything that I'm curious about when it comes to aging. And then the audience gets to learn right along with me. And now we've created a second show called Ageless Enthusiasm. It's a monthly program, and it's really for anyone, but it's really been designed for the sandwich generation, for what we call the go-to kids, the adult kids that might be helping to guide aging parents, while at the same time they have their own career and fitness goals and marriages and grandchildren and adult children, and they're just trying to juggle it all. And so that's called Ageless Enthusiasm. You can also find that at pbs.org. So for boomers and Gen X.
Yeah, those links we'll put in the description box for you. I'm curious, you mentioned the sandwich generation. It's funny. The first time I ever heard that was actually Dave Ramsey because he's talking about having long term care insurance and starting to
Mhm.
prepare for your parents. But he was talking about baby boomers preparing for their parents who are silent generation. And it's funny, just yesterday, spoke to a woman at her home. She's wanting to sell it. She's in her 60s. And she said, "Oh, I want to move to South Jordan because my mom and dad are in a 6 bedroom, 3 bath home." And, they're like in their early 90s. And she's like, "Oh,
Mhm.
dad won't sell." So it started a big conversation. I see that fairly often. I mean, do you see that sort of thing where you have a baby boomer in their 60s and 70s, which most people would say, "Oh, that's the old person," but they're actually helping their parent who's in their 80s or 90s.
Reading a really great book right now
Mhm.
called Stage Not Age. And it talks about all the different generations involved in all of these things, and that there's 18 stages or more that we go through in what they're calling the fifth quarter of life. That if we're so lucky, a lot of us may have an extra 30 or 40 years of life compared to just a generation or two ago. So it's really interesting. And the study of the longevity market. And one thing I didn't mention why the seminars and the TV show came about is because I'm a lifelong realtor. My husband and I have been a husband wife team since 1998. All 3 of our adult children worked with us in the team. Our daughter Jillian still does here. And I decided 5 years ago I was gonna put the rest of my career energy into serving seniors and their families. And I'm so glad I did that. I thought a niche would be limiting during most of my career. And I found that it's really expanded my world. I had no idea I'd have the opportunity to do speaking events nonstop, but also have a TV show. And so I just really love this new life that I've gotten by committing to seniors and helping them through all of these transitions.
People have an idea of like a real estate agent or a realtor. But then we talk about focusing on a certain area, and people
Mhm.
probably have a image of what that is. You and I know it's fairly complex, but Maybe you could outline a couple of the differences between, say, a general real estate transaction, just helping like the general public, as opposed to helping seniors in their unique challenges.
Okay, happy to do that. So again, I've been in real estate my entire life. So at the beginning, it was about learning real estate, how to do real estate. That's one of the challenges when you're choosing a realtor is to see, are they going to practice on you? Or are they learning on you? Or are they already very experienced at what they do? Because I promise you, it's going to make a big difference on your bottom line and how everything goes. It just will. And so the first part of my career was about learning the real estate business. Then I became very interested in having a large, successful family team, and it was very units and volume focused, which I'm so not that way anymore. But back when we were raising young children, it was very scary that my husband and I were both selling real estate. There was no steady paycheck, there were no benefits, no health insurance, no anything. It all depended on getting homes sold. Over time, that became frustrating because I wasn't hitting what I really wanted to hit. We were top producers in our area, but I was comparing ourselves to other large teams in other cities. So I decided I wanted to bring Keller Williams Realty to our city because there's a very interesting culture and a lot of education. I felt like that education would really help me. Well, rather than having it help me with our real estate team, I got completely off track, got 100% focused on growing the real estate company, ended up opening two large brokerage firms and recruiting and training agents for years. So I really understand the whole real estate industry and how most agents think. And after a while, especially after the market shift, and dabbled in commercial real estate, I did a lot of corporate relocation. I just decided, boy, I'm tired of competing with people that maybe just got a license last summer. But people would, after they bought or sold a few homes with us, maybe the next time around, they would use a brand new realtor that they went to high school with, a decade and a half or 2 decades ago. And I thought, gee, this is not really what I had in mind. Who would appreciate the experience that my husband and I have? I just want to create my own lane. And I thought about seniors and how a lot of times people have been very loyal in their careers. They stayed with the same company for 30, 40, 50 years. And I thought, I think seniors would appreciate longevity in business. And as I get older, get more wrinkles and get a little older, I don't have little children to tag, to bring to the soccer games anymore. But maybe working in the senior realm, that would be something I could age in because I don't want to retire. I want to continue to work. I enjoy working. And so I did find that I was able to create my own lane. But what I didn't expect was how fulfilling it would be in all these new opportunities that would come my way. And so it's really my passion. And I'm almost allergic to thinking transactions and volume, which could be a fault. I'm not sure, but I'm very focused on the learning aspect of it and the serving and the education, trying to get education out there so that people will plan in advance for their future rather than wait for that urgent crisis catalyst event that could be waiting for them if they don't think in advance. A lot of seniors are just waiting to see what happens. And oftentimes that doesn't turn out great. And then adult kids are often wondering, what should we say to mom and dad? How should we support mom and dad? They're not really sure when it's appropriate or what is appropriate to say. So the more I learn and the more great resources I'm able to tap into, the more I'm able to share and help give people some confidence in the candid conversations that they're having together as a family.
The very first senior transaction I had, I had a lot of learning to do, and it was very complex because he was a veteran and we had to move him to assisted living because he kept falling down. There was all this personal property. We had to figure out how to get him veterans aid and attendance. And it was actually fun because it wasn't just, oh, here's a purchase contract, do your inspection and just cookie cutter stuff. Cause I'll tell you, as a broker, as an agent, investor, however you want to describe me, the cookie cutter deals, I don't feel like I'm bringing as much value because it's like, if you're college educated, you probably could do that on your own, really, other than, getting into, say, the MLS, some of my marketing and maybe some other years of experience. but especially in COVID, it's hard to do that. The senior space, and you might want to expound on this, is so sparse with professionals outside of the medical and legal realm. You have lawyers that will deal with estate planning, elder care, law, and probate, which is, oh my gosh, like every senior's got to set up stuff to avoid probate when they pass. Please, please, please. You can look at other stuff on my YouTube channel for that. But the medical industry obviously has its own issues just with the entire population. We have a huge lack of professionals focused on seniors in other financial areas, such as financial planning, in terms of real estate, and I would say even personal property in these transitions. It is a huge problem in our country that I think we are going to feel the effects of in the next 10 years because you will have a
Mhm.
lot of seniors that are struggling to transition and it'll be really hard to find help. But it's like we have got to get the message out. We have got to help seniors and their families learn that these are not general transactions. You have to have a specialist. We have to help inspire other professionals, even outside of real estate, to start working with seniors because these are
Mhm.
not easy. So some people are scared of
Right.
them because they could be very challenging transactions. They could be challenging personalities.
It is very challenging. Overwhelming is the word most frequently used when people are
Aren't they?
describing their situation, whether they are wanting to exit the market and they've got to deal with all their personal property, or they're stalling on making the decision because they're overwhelmed about usually the personal property, or the kids are overwhelmed. Personal property is one of the biggest hitches to the whole thing because we tend to, most of us, accumulate and accumulate and accumulate and get more and more and more stuff. And then we're storing our kids' stuff. And it's all this stuff. Reminds me of George Carlin and his comedy routine stuff. That's something you can look up on YouTube and it's worth a huge laugh. And it's so true. He was so spot on. It's the stuff that's really causing the greatest challenge as far as people moving forward. That's after they make the decision to move forward, because the moving forward part, the stuff holds them back, but also the fear and the thinking that I want to stay in my own home. That's the instinct of, I've seen anywhere from 70 to 90% or more different statistics saying that the average older homeowner wants to live in their own home as long as I can. So they're waiting for catalyst thing that forces it. And so, what we are working on educating, in addition to talking about avoiding probate and having the right attorneys and all these different components and how you can age in place better in the home that you're in, or wonder, is this the right home to age in place, or would I be better aging in place elsewhere? At the same time, we're educating on all these issues. We're also helping people prepare with the idea that very few people actually do get carried out feet first. As a real estate agent, we've all heard that. This is the last home I'm going to buy. This is my forever home. I'm not leaving till I get carried out in a pine box. Because I think as humans, we want to be settled and feel sure about things and not have those questions arise. And so it's a big decision making point to make a proactive move. And so that's what we do with in-home consults, is help people think through all the things that they are questioning and help them with deferred maintenance questions. A lot of times people are far more worried about the condition that their home is in, or the bathroom caulking, or all kinds of things they just worry about so much. So having someone like you or I go to their home can relieve a lot of that, but also show that there is a well-practiced plan on how to help someone through a transition, because this is no longer about selling a house and having a garage sale. There's a smart way to do things, and that's what we can help people figure out. A lot of times when people see what the plan looks like, they're like, forget saying next spring, I'm ready to move now. Because a lot of times it's just understanding, how is it possible? And so if we can show how it's possible, but the most important thing that any professional can understand is that it's not about selling the house. You and I have been selling homes forever, and we know how to do that part. We aren't learning anymore. We aren't practicing on people. We know how to do that with competence. Our mission is to help the human being. The house we can handle. It's help the human beings involved and manage the timeline, protect the timeline at all costs. Unfortunately, a lot of seniors, they'll make a good decision to downsize, but then they call a realtor who comes right over and lists their house. The sign goes in the yard the next morning. And then there comes the heart attack, stroke, accident, and illness because people weren't aware of what the timeline should be and how to manage the process. I always tell people the last thing you need is a realtor. I'm very serious about that. And I have a realtor's heart and I've been a realtor my whole entire life. The last thing you need is a realtor. What you need is a plan. You need a timeline and you need to manage the whole project. And so there are people like you and I and different ones across the country that are educating people on how we can help be the hub of the transaction and help with the project, help manage the project side by side with the homeowners, side by side with the go to kids, and make it much easier. We've helped over 150 seniors move, physically move. So we learned a lot of things the hard way. And that's how you usually learn things is you learn by doing. And so you don't want to learn the hard way on your mom's house, or learn the hard way on your own project. It's a lot. It's a lot. And we have a system to offer and then it's up to people how they want to do it, but we can at least let them know this is what has worked well for a lot of people and take them through the process.
One thing you mentioned there, like the last thing you need is a realtor. I think there's a lot of baggage to that word. For me, I tell people like, well, I'm a real estate professional because there's a lot of things we could do for you. You mentioned like people were worried about the condition of their house and the timeline. I recently had a transaction with a elderly couple in their 70s, husband fought in Vietnam and very common story we see here in the United States and even here in Utah. And their home could have been listed. We would have had to have made some repairs and stuff, but they're like, no, we want this sold immediately. We are willing to sell for a discount. We want a cash offer. So we showed it to a few of our investor partners. And yes, the investor will buy it at a discounted rate and they're going to clean it up and resell it. They're like, hey, we're happy with this. They said, we bought this house brand new and it has quadrupled in value. We're fine. They said that, and there's some truth in that. And now they're like, we just need to get out. Sometimes the realtor side of me, it's like, no, you got to list because you'll get more money and blah, blah, blah. But it wasn't about that. It was about helping them transition. And that honestly, talking to them and their daughter and the son-in-law was the best thing for them. And part of that's also, still education and guidance. Because one of the things I have found frustrating in our profession, and there's obviously some drama right now in the country over this, is people not articulating how money, commissions, or the process works. If it cannot be
Mhm.
articulated, that person probably is not the professional for you.
Right.
And I think that's a big thing. Like, I don't think a lot of people realize a majority of your realtors are part time. They are been in the business for only a year or two. Our local MLS, and I say this because I know people locally watch this, but I know people nationally will watch it. And I have a feeling these numbers in my local association of realtors is very similar to others. We have 18,000 real estate agents along the Wasatch Front. Wasatch Front's like Greater Salt Lake Valley. To be in the top 1,000 realtors, you have to have done at least 11 transactions. People can't even, I mean, that's ridiculous. They can't even do one transaction a month. And
It's terrible. You can't be good. You're not doing 3 or 4 closings a month.
well, and the thing is, I see families hire people who are in that bottom 17,000 and then they get frustrated. Sometimes I'll say if they're pissed off at the agent and it's like, well, then why did you hire someone that's not a full-time professional or producer? You're not doing yourself a favor. I see that every week,
Mhm.
so it's interesting, but I
And
say that for my audience because fine, maybe they don't want to work with me. Maybe they don't want to work with you, but gosh, please work with one of my colleagues that's actually doing business. Please.
yeah.
That's the big thing I'll beg you. And with investors, and now this is one thing I'll say about investors and seniors, because I think it's relevant.
Mhm.
I first
Yeah.
got helping seniors because there was an unscrupulous investor trying to take advantage of him. And that does
Well, I've
exist.
never heard of that before.
Well, it's one of the biggest fears families have, right?
It's terrible.
Yeah, it's like, oh, an investor is going to do this and that. Here's the beauty about the real estate license. And I tell people this because I invest also, and so some of my friends. If you're going to buy from an investor, it makes sense to buy from an investor that also has a real estate license, because at that point they are obligated to a code of ethics. They have to have passed a state exam and they have to pay yearly dues. They are licensed. So if they do try to do something wrong, you can get them in trouble. But if it's just
Mhm.
follow the investor, really hard. It's much harder. I mean, you're gonna have to go to court and stuff, and even then, there's no professional oversight on them. It's the same thing you have in the
Exactly.
contracting space. You don't hire a contractor that doesn't have a contracting license that isn't licensed and bonded. Otherwise, you're
Mhm.
setting yourself up for,
And
potential
insured.
and yeah,
Right.
bonded insured, exactly.
I think you and I that we're on the same page now. We just want people to have disclosure. It's okay to sell to an investor, but wouldn't it be better if you were getting offers from different people and opinions from different people? If you had someone like Stephen overseeing the process, it doesn't cost extra, that Stephen can make sure that you're getting a fair price, because a lot of people do just want to push the easy button. Like, we don't care. We just want to be done. We just went out. It's critical, but selling to an investor with no oversight is not good because there's no regulation whatsoever. And so I like to see investors that step up and become licensed with their state, and they're willing to be held to at least the state standards as a licensee. And you could report them to the Utah Real Estate Commission if you thought things weren't done right. Better yet, join the board of Realtors, the professional association. It costs a lot more money, but that's where the standards of practice and the ethics, and they have their feet even held to the fire more. And most realtors are very concerned about violating anything to do with ethics or standards of practice. That might not be what people would assume, but it is the truth. Realtors are scared to death for the most part to do anything wrong. And sometimes it even creates confusion with them and what they're allowed to do because they've been so scared. But my suggestion to realtors would be become a specialist. And if you're going to work with seniors, you need to understand there's a lot you don't know. There's a lot beyond your real estate license. There's a lot beyond the National Association of Realtors and the little SRES designation. There's a lot more to it, and you could really be hurting someone by not being a specialist and understanding how to manage the timeline. And I see a lot of realtors that want to push that off on a senior move manager or on the family or something else and call me when the house is ready. And I would like to say that is not the proper way to go about it, that the realtor who is a specialist will be involved through the entire process to help because they care about the person and they care about the transition, not just the transaction.
Right. I agree completely. Yeah, so we'll probably have you on again because I think you and I could probably talk for a couple of hours. But realistically, we only have so much time at Zoom and our personal schedules, business schedules. I was curious if you wanted to leave us with a couple other thoughts based on what we've talked about, and just remind the audience again how to get in touch with you and where to see you.
Well, thank you. My personal phone number is 316-686-4500. My email is kambrose@kw.com. And you can Google me to find out more or go to pbs.org and type in Empowering Seniors to see some of the content that we've produced for public television. It's really been the honor of my lifetime to be involved in that and bring this content out there. So I just would mostly like to say there's a lot of resources out there, and there's people like Stephen and I, and people in the aging services field that can help you connect to services. But when it comes to the real estate part of it and the transition part of it, make sure you deal only with a specialist. That's something that they've really devoted their career to. They've already learned how to do real estate long ago, and they are a true specialist in this type of transition and this type of challenge. So, Stephen, it's delightful to be acquainted with you, and I know we'll stay in touch.
Thank you so much for being on the YouTube channel. We're going to have you again. And folks, make sure you check out those links. Go to pbs.org, look up Empowering Seniors. It's again, one of the things we're trying to do is we're trying to create more content to educate you. Even if you're in other parts of the country, check that stuff out. There's relevant information that'll help you and your family. Thanks. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, Stephen. Bye bye.